another sleepy true crime story. Before we get started, let me know in the comments where you're listening from tonight, at what time it is, whether you're wrapped in a blanket at 9 p.m. or lying awake just after midnight. I'm grateful to have your company. If you enjoy winding down with true crime stories told softly, be sure to subscribe for more weekly bedtime episodes. Tonight, we walk quietly through a case that shook the world. This is the story of Jeffrey Epstein, a financier who moved through the highest levels of power, wealth, and politics, all while hiding crimes so disturbing, so deeply concealed, that many are still untangling the truth. We will not rush. We will not sensationalize. This is not a tabloid tale. It's a reflection on silence, influence, and the courage it takes to be heard. So, breathe in, let the day go, and let's begin. Jeffrey Edward Epstein was born on January 20th, 1953, in Brooklyn, New York. He grew up in a working-class neighborhood in the borough's Coney Island area. His father worked for the city's parks department. His childhood, at least on paper, was unremarkable. He was smart, very smart, gifted in math and science, curious, reserved, quiet. He skipped 2 grades and entered college early, but he never finished. Despite never earning a degree, Epstein somehow found his way into one of the most elite private schools in Manhattan, the Dalton School, as a math teacher. He was just in his early 20s. It was at Dalton where he would meet the man who changed his life, Alan Greenberg, the chairman of the investment bank Bear Stearns. Soon after, Epstein left teaching and entered finance, and from there, his rise was swift, strange, and shadowy. At Bear Stearns, Epstein impressed colleagues with his intelligence, but confused them with his vagueness. He wasn't licensed. He rarely talked about deals in detail, but he networked relentlessly. In 1981, he left the firm to start his own company, J. Epstein & Co., a mysterious operation said to manage the money of billionaires. He claimed to work only with clients worth over $1 billion. He was secretive, insular, unusual. No public investors, no annual reports, no clear records. And yet, he amassed immense wealth, private planes, a 71-acre estate in the Virgin Islands, a mansion in Manhattan, the largest private residence in the city, a ranch in New Mexico, an apartment in Paris, a waterfront home in Palm Beach. Epstein's fortune seemed boundless. But where it came from, and how he acquired it, was always a bit unclear. What was clear was his talent for connection. By the 1990s and early 2000s, Epstein was no longer just a financier. He was a gatekeeper, a name whispered among the powerful. He moved effortlessly between worlds of politics, science, and celebrity. His guest lists were legendary. Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's private jet multiple times. Donald Trump once described him as a terrific guy. Prince Andrew was a frequent visitor. He donated to Harvard, MIT, and other institutions. He was photographed with people like Stephen Hawking, Kevin Spacey, and Elon Musk. To many, Epstein seemed eccentric, but brilliant. A patron of the sciences, a lover of intelligence, a man whose friendships reached everywhere. But behind closed doors, a much darker story was forming. One that would eventually emerge, not from a journalist, not from a whistleblower, but from a teenage girl and her parents. In 2005, in Palm Beach, Florida, the family of a teenage girl approached police with concerns about a visit she had made to a wealthy man's home. That man was Jeffrey Epstein. What began as a local investigation soon revealed a larger, deeply troubling pattern. Dozens of young women shared similar stories. They spoke of invitations, introductions, and situations that quickly became uncomfortable. There was a structure to it, a system, and behind it all, something far more serious than anyone had initially imagined. The case was handed over to the FBI. They gathered evidence, interviewed dozens of witnesses. A federal indictment seemed imminent. And then, everything changed. In 2008, Epstein accepted a plea deal. He pled guilty to 2 state charges, solicitation and procurement of a minor. He was sentenced to 18 months in county jail, but served only 13. During that time, he was granted work release. He spent up to 12 hours a day outside the jail in his office. The deal also granted immunity to any unnamed co-conspirators. It was secret, it was sweeping, and it shocked the detectives who had spent years building the case. It would be more than a decade before justice would circle back. One of Epstein's most infamous properties was Little St. James, a private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Locals called it Pedophile Island. It was surrounded by high walls and patrolled by guards. According to reports and testimonies, the island was a hub for abuse. Girls were flown in from around the world. Many were underage. Some were lured with modeling opportunities. Others simply trafficked. Survivors described manipulation, threats, and worse. The island, they said, was not paradise. It was a prison, and Epstein was the warden. In 2018 and 2019, investigative journalists reopened the Epstein case. A series of exposés, most notably by the Miami Herald, brought new voices forward. More survivors, more names, more outrage. Public attention surged. Petitions were signed. Victims spoke openly. Many for the first time. And in July 2019, Epstein was arrested again, this time by federal authorities in New York. The charges: sex trafficking of minors across state lines. The evidence: extensive. Dozens of photos, witnesses, flight logs. He was denied bail and placed in the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan. On August 10th, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his cell. The official ruling: suicide by hanging. But the circumstances only deepened the mystery. Security cameras outside his cell weren't working. The guards on duty fell asleep. He had been taken off suicide watch just days earlier. Autopsy reports were conflicting. His neck injuries, some argued, were more consistent with homicide. Conspiracies swirled. Epstein didn't kill himself became a meme, a headline, and a lingering question. And the survivors were once again left without the chance to face him in court. After Epstein's death, focus shifted to his longtime associate, Ghislaine Maxwell. The British socialite had been by his side for years, at social events, in photographs, in the shadows. Many survivors said Maxwell was not just complicit, but central. They alleged that she helped recruit girls, normalized Epstein's behavior, gained their trust, then passed them off. In 2020, Maxwell was arrested. She was charged with conspiracy to entice and transport minors, and with perjury. In 2021, she stood trial. Several survivors testified. And in December of that year, she was found guilty on 5 counts. She was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Even now, years later, questions remain. Who else was involved? Why were the early warnings ignored? Why did prosecutors go easy on him in 2008? What happened on the island? And how deep did the network go? Flight logs, visitor lists, black books. Many of those connected to Epstein have denied wrongdoing. Some say they knew nothing. Others remain silent. But silence was how it thrived. For years, those in power looked away. Now, many refuse to. Tonight, as we drift toward the end of the story, let us not center Epstein. Let us remember the survivors. The young women, many just girls at the time, who found the strength to speak, who were ignored, mocked, doubted, and yet they persisted. Because of them, the world saw behind the curtain. Because of them, the silence was shattered. Their courage is the heart of this story. Thank you for spending this quiet time with me tonight. May the stories of those who came forward continue to echo. May truth rise louder than power, and may sleep come gently to those who need rest. You are safe now. You are seen. Good night.